You don't lose her because of your age. You lose her the moment you forget how attraction actually works. Listen to me carefully, because this is where most older men misunderstand younger women, and it quietly destroys their chances before anything even begins. Younger women are not repelled by time, they're repelled by energy. And the first habit that kills attraction faster than anything else is when a man turns his age into his personality. I'm talking about the subtle ways you announce yourself as older before she ever asked. You mention your age like it's an apology. You joke about being tired. You compare yourself to younger men as if you're already losing. You talk about how things used to be better back then. And in that moment, she doesn't see experience. She sees resignation. Younger women crave presence, aliveness, direction. When you lead with nostalgia, you signal that your best moments are behind you, and attraction never grows towards someone who sounds like they're already done becoming. Here's the truth most men were never told. Confidence doesn't come from pretending you're young. It comes from being fully rooted in who you are now. When you downplay your vitality or frame yourself as past your prime, you force her into the role of emotional caretaker. And desire cannot exist where responsibility replaces curiosity. Another habit that quietly erodes attraction is over-explaining yourself. You think you're being transparent. She feels like you're seeking permission. Younger women are drawn to men who move with internal certainty. When you justify every decision, every boundary, every preference, you communicate doubt, even if your words sound logical. And doubt is exhausting to be around. There's also the habit of chasing validation through generosity, buying too much, giving too fast, over-accommodating. You tell yourself you're being kind, mature, stable, but from her perspective, it feels like pressure, like a transaction she never agreed to. Attraction needs space to breathe. When you crowd it with effort, it suffocates. Let me say this gently but clearly. Younger women don't want to be impressed by your resources. They want to be intrigued by your self-control. When you show that you don't need approval, you become magnetic. When you give to get, the magic dies. Another silent killer is trying to teach instead of connecting. Experience can be powerful, but only when it's invited. When you correct her too often, lecture her, or position yourself as the authority on life, you strip away playfulness. Attraction thrives in mutual discovery, not instruction. And then there's emotional heaviness, bringing past heartbreaks, divorces, regrets, or bitterness into early conversations. You may call it honesty. She feels it as weight. Younger women are not running from depth, but they are running from unresolved pain. They want to feel possibility, not inherit emotional debt. Here's the part that stings the most. None of these habits come from malice. They come from fear. Fear of being replaced, fear of aging, fear of not being enough anymore. And fear, no matter how well dressed, always leaks through. When you release the need to prove, explain, or protect your ego, something shifts. You stop performing, you start being. And that's when attraction begins. Quietly, powerfully, without effort. Because the men younger women desire most aren't trying to convince anyone of their value. They move like they already know it. There's another mistake older men make that younger women rarely forgive, and it's far more damaging than saying the wrong thing. It's when a man tries to borrow youth instead of embodying maturity. You see it in the way he changes his voice, his slang, his opinions. He mirrors her taste too quickly. He pretends to understand trends he clearly doesn't care about. He reshapes himself to look relevant, and the moment he does that, attraction quietly collapses. Not because he's older, but because he's inauthentic. Younger women are extremely sensitive to congruence. They can feel when a man is comfortable in his skin and when he's performing. When you chase youth, you signal insecurity. You tell her, without words, that you don't trust your own depth to be enough. Here's the hard truth. Maturity is attractive only when it's unapologetic. The moment you dilute it to fit in, you lose the very thing that made you different. Another habit that kills attraction is speaking negatively about younger men, criticizing their immaturity, mocking their lack of discipline, comparing yourself to them out loud. You think you're elevating yourself. She hears bitterness. When you compete with men she never mentioned, you reveal fear. And fear makes you smaller in her eyes. A grounded man doesn't need to contrast himself with anyone. He knows his lane. He walks it calmly. And that calm confidence is what younger women feel drawn toward, even if they don't consciously understand why. Then there's control disguised as protection. Older men sometimes assume they know better. They warn too much, advise too early, restrict subtly. You might call it care. She experiences it as limitation. Younger women value autonomy intensely. The moment they feel managed instead of met, their attraction shuts down. Not loudly, quietly, permanently. And here's something very few men realize. Attraction isn't about being right. It's about being safe and expansive at the same time. When a woman feels she can grow around you, not shrink, desire deepens. Another subtle habit is emotional over-availability. Always replying instantly, always agreeing, always adjusting your schedule, always being accessible. Consistency matters, but mystery matters too. When you remove all friction, all polarity, all tension, you flatten the dynamic. Attraction needs contrast. It needs the sense that you have a life, a rhythm, a purpose that doesn't orbit her. Younger women don't want to be your center. They want to visit your world and feel invited, not responsible. Let's talk about approval-seeking humor. Self-deprecating jokes about your age, about your looks, about being too old for this. You think you're disarming the situation. What you're really doing is teaching her how to see you. Never make yourself small to make someone comfortable. Comfort without respect leads nowhere. And perhaps the most damaging habit of all is urgency. Rushing connection, pushing commitment, trying to lock things down quickly because you fear losing her to time or options. Urgency feels like pressure. Pressure kills desire. Attraction grows when there is patience, restraint, and grounded presence. When you're not trying to secure her, but simply allowing her to experience you. Here's what younger women respond to deeply. A man who has nothing to prove, nothing to hide, and nothing to rush. Age only becomes a problem when you treat it like one. There is a habit so subtle that most men never notice it, yet younger women feel it instantly. It's when an older man confuses interest with entitlement. He believes that because he's experienced, stable, or generous, attraction should naturally follow. And the moment that belief settles in, his energy shifts from inviting to demanding, not with words, with tone, with expectation, with the quiet assumption that she should appreciate him. Younger women are highly reactive to entitlement. They don't rebel against authority, they recoil from obligation. The second she senses that your kindness has conditions, attraction begins to drain. Desire can't grow where gratitude is expected. This shows up when you subtly keep score, when you mention what you've done for her, when disappointment leaks out because she didn't respond the way you hoped, when your patience has an expiration date. You may think you're being fair. She feels manipulated. True confidence gives freely and releases cleanly. The moment you need a return on emotional investment, the dynamic turns transactional, and attraction does not survive transactions. Another habit that quietly kills attraction is living too much in the past. Not nostalgia, but identity. You talk about who you were instead of who you are becoming. Old achievements, old status, old stories that no longer require risk. Younger women admire legacy, but they are drawn to momentum. They want to feel that your life is still unfolding, that you're still curious, still evolving, still capable of surprise. When your stories end with, "I used to," you place yourself behind glass, respected but untouched. There's also the habit of emotional guarding disguised as wisdom. You stay measured, controlled, always reasonable, never fully expressive. You think restraint makes you powerful. In reality, it can make you distant. Younger women don't want emotional chaos, but they do want emotional access. They want to feel your passion, your conviction, your joy. When everything about you feels regulated and safe but flat, attraction has nothing to grab onto. Then comes the savior mindset, trying to rescue her from her problems, fix her life, guide her decisions, shield her from mistakes. You believe you're offering value. She feels underestimated. Younger women want partnership, not parenting. The moment your care becomes correction, polarity collapses. Desire cannot flow towards someone who treats you like a project. Another attraction killer is neglecting your physical presence, not aging, but abandoning your body, your posture, your health, your vitality. Younger women read the body before they hear the words, how you move, how you stand, how you inhabit space. You don't need to look young. You need to look alive. Energy is visible, and when your body reflects discipline and self-respect, your age becomes irrelevant. And finally, there's the habit of emotional predictability, always responding the same way, always agreeable, always available. You think consistency builds safety. It does, but without edge, safety becomes boredom. Attraction lives in balance, warmth and restraint, openness and mystery, strength and softness. When one side disappears, desire follows. Here's the truth that changes everything. Younger women aren't attracted to age, status, or effort. They're attracted to presence, to a man who is grounded, alive, self-directed, and emotionally real, without needing anything from them. The moment you release entitlement and step fully into your own becoming, attraction doesn't need to be chased. It recognizes you. There is one habit that almost guarantees attraction will fade, no matter how strong it once felt, and it's the need to be understood. Older men often carry this quiet hunger to explain themselves, to make sure she truly sees their intentions, their sacrifices, their depth. And the more you try to be understood, the less attractive you become. Because attraction doesn't grow through explanation, it grows through experience. When you narrate your values instead of living them, when you clarify your motives instead of letting your actions speak, you pull her out of feeling and into analysis. Younger women don't fall for your logic. They fall for how they feel around you, and feelings don't need footnotes. This need to be understood often shows up as defensiveness. You correct misinterpretations. You justify your reactions. You clarify what you meant. You may think you're protecting connection. What you're actually doing is breaking tension, the very thing that fuels desire. Then there's emotional dependence disguised as closeness, wanting constant reassurance, asking where you stand too often, seeking confirmation that she still feels something. You call it communication. She experiences it as pressure. Attraction needs air. The moment it has to perform on command, it withers. Another habit that kills desire is oversharing your inner world too early. Your fears, your doubts, your loneliness, your regrets. Vulnerability is powerful when it's anchored in self-trust. When it's not, it feels like emotional leakage. Younger women want to witness your openness, but not feel responsible for stabilizing it. Strength isn't silence. Strength is knowing when and how to open. There's also the habit of minimizing your own boundaries to avoid conflict. You tolerate behaviors that bother you. You stay quiet to keep the peace. You tell yourself you're being mature. In reality, you're erasing yourself. And nothing kills attraction faster than a man who disappears to be liked. Boundaries are not walls. They are signals of self-respect. When you hold them calmly, without anger or apology, you create safety and polarity at the same time. Another silent killer is emotional flatness. Always calm, always reasonable, always controlled. You think you're being stable. She feels like she's talking to a surface. Younger women are drawn to emotional range, passion, humor, conviction, stillness, and intensity. When your emotions never fluctuate, connection has nowhere to deepen. And let's talk about attention imbalance. When your focus becomes too available, too constant, too predictable, attraction loses contrast. Desire thrives on rhythm, presence and absence, engagement and space. When you give everything at once, there's nothing left to anticipate. Here's something most men never hear. Attraction is not about effort, it's about self-containment, the ability to be fully present without needing anything in return, the ability to enjoy connection without clinging to it. Younger women don't pull away because men are older. They pull away because they feel needed instead of chosen. When you stop trying to secure meaning, clarity, or reassurance and simply stand in who you are, something changes. Your energy becomes grounded. Your presence becomes felt. Your words carry weight without explanation. And that's when attraction doesn't need to be maintained. It sustains itself. The final habit that kills attraction is the one most men never see in themselves because it feels like wisdom. It's the habit of settling internally while pretending to stay engaged. Your life looks stable. Your routine works. You've learned how to manage disappointment. But somewhere along the way, you stopped demanding more from yourself. Younger women feel this instantly, not consciously, energetically. They sense when a man is no longer stretching, no longer risking, no longer stepping into uncertainty, when comfort replaces hunger, when survival replaces purpose, and attraction cannot grow toward a man who has stopped reaching. This doesn't mean chasing chaos or acting young. It means having a living edge, a direction that scares you just enough, a future you are still building, not just maintaining. Younger women are drawn to men whose lives are in motion, because motion creates gravity. Another attraction killer is living reactively instead of deliberately, letting work drain you, letting stress define you, letting habits run your days without intention. You show up tired, distracted, half present. You think she'll understand. She feels like she's competing with your exhaustion. Presence is the rarest currency in attraction. When you are fully there, grounded, alert, engaged, you become unforgettable. When you're mentally elsewhere, no amount of experience can save you. There's also the habit of hiding behind independence. You pride yourself on not needing anyone, on being self-sufficient, on never asking for support. You think this makes you strong. But complete emotional isolation creates distance, not desire. Younger women are drawn to men who are whole, but open, self-directed, but connected. Strength without accessibility feels cold. Openness without strength feels unsafe. Attraction lives in the balance. And then comes the most damaging pattern of all, living as if time is closing instead of opening. Rushing moments, gripping outcomes, acting like this chance is rare, fragile, and must be secured quickly. That energy communicates fear. Attraction grows in spaciousness, in patience, in trust that what aligns doesn't need to be forced. When you move calmly, when you don't rush connection, when you let things unfold instead of controlling them, you become a place of emotional safety and intrigue at the same time. Here is the truth younger women respond to most deeply: a man who respects his time, his energy, and his standards, without bitterness, without urgency, without apology. Age only amplifies what's already there. If you are grounded, purposeful, and alive, age becomes attractive. If you are fearful, stagnant, or seeking validation, age becomes visible. So don't ask yourself how to keep younger women interested. Ask yourself this instead: are you still growing, or just maintaining? Because the moment you recommit to your own evolution, physically, mentally, emotionally, attraction stops being something you chase. It starts showing up. Now let me ask you something personal, and I want you to answer honestly in the comments. Are you living today from growth or from comfort? If this message hit something real inside you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with one man who needs to hear it, before he makes the same mistakes without ever knowing why.